All right, so over the past couple of years, I've shared hundreds of chord progressions on social media, and in that time, I've discovered what sounds good, what doesn't, or even creating music that might challenge what people are used to hearing. So today, I'm going to finally show you how I like to create chord progressions. One of my processes that I like to use to create these chord progressions that I share on social media. So we're going to break all that down in this video. Now, before we talk about building out the main chords or even constructing the melody, I think the first thing that's like extremely important before you build out any type of chord progression is really try to like establish the type of feeling you want to create for the listener, right? So by the end of the chord progression or the musical piece, you want your listener to be able to walk away feeling some type of way. So in this video, I'm basically going to show you how I can create these chord progressions from scratch and kind of like show you that creative process from point A to point Z. So for me, let's say in this video, I want to create some type of like nostalgic, but also like a feeling where the listener can kind of like feel reflective. They can kind of like reflect on things that have happened in their past. So yeah, I kind of want to create this like nostalgic, but also reflective feeling for the listener. So that's step number one. Establish what type of feeling you want to create for the listener or experience during that musical piece or even after they listen to what you have played. Before we talk about step number two, I want to tell you about my new feature that I just released in my Chord app, Apollo. And it's basically an AI feature that pretty much gives you recommendations on chords or chord progressions based off of what you've already played in Apollo. So you know how Netflix basically gives you recommendations on movies or shows based off of what you've already watched, right? So it basically gives you things that it think you might like based off of things you've already seen. I basically created this AI feature that gives you recommendations on chords or chord progressions based off of things that you've already played within Apollo. So it gives you, new ways of how you can like level up or just new ways of seeing chords in different contexts. Feel free to check it out. I'm going to provide a link in the description below. So yeah, I would love for you to try it out if you haven't already. We've already talked about the feeling that we want to create for the listener. Now let's build out the melody. That's the next step. Build out the melody. What would you want that melody to sound like within the chord progression? I could mess around with something like, okay, that sounds okay. Let me see. Okay, I like that. That sounds good. So I'm just playing around with different ideas. Okay, I like this one. I think I can work with this. Okay, I'm gonna go with that for now. All right, let's say that's my melody. Okay, now build out the melody. All right, we've established the feeling that we want to create for the listener. We build out the melody. That's step number two. Now, step number three is to construct the main chords around that melody that you just built out in step number two. Also keeping in mind the feeling that I want to create for the listener, which is like this nostalgic but also reflective feeling. So based off that feeling in this melody, that can kind of like guide the type of chords I can play around with. So I'm just going to experiment with different chords around this melody. Okay, so I like some of these chords within the progression, but I feel like there's something missing that I need to add. Let's see. that one sounds good. I like that. That one just feels right. I don't like that one. Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, going from here to here, that just sounds right. Okay, so I'm already going down on this bass line. What if I just continue to go down? So what if I did, and then in the bass I'm doing this. My melody is E flat, right? So what if I played a chord around that? So what if I did like this F minor 11? So what if I did? Okay, that sounds good. All right, we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. All right, so far we got. All right, now for this last chord, I need some type of like way to get back to that first chord. So I need some type of turnaround chord. Okay, so got boom, boom, boom. What if I have, let's see, boom, boom. All right, this is my melody. What if I did that? That sounds good. That sounds pretty cool. So what if I have, okay, now that sounds good. I'm happy with that. All right, now that we've established these chords, now we can insert some passing chords into this progression. We've established what the most important chords are. Now we can build some more chords around those main chords to essentially give the progression a little bit more, we can just add more stuff to it, right? So there's more things happening within the progression rather than just static chords. A good place to add passing chords is at that turnaround part in a progression. So that place where you're essentially trying to turn around to get back to the top of the chord progression. Now I can add in another chord in between this one and my first chord that's at the top of the progression. So in between my last chord and the first chord, I can add in another chord. So what if I did something like, what if I added in like a B flat alt chord? Ooh, adding a little bit of tension. So these alt chords are really nice chords to lead you to like a minor chord where you kind of get that release. So there's the tension, there's the release. So what if I had something like, that sounds good. And all I did was I just added in a little passing chord that essentially got me back to the top of the progression. Another passing chord that you can add into your progressions are chromatic passing chords. So chromatic passing chords are just chords that are half step below or above your target chord. So if my target chord is this chord right here, I could play a chord that's a half step below it. So I could play, if I go half step below, all I need to do is just move every note in this chord down by a half step. So that would become, then I'm gonna go up. So I could do something like, so instead of playing this B flat alt chord, I could play this chord. So I could do, it doesn't sound bad. So I could do the same thing. I could go a half step above that target chord. So my target chord is here. I could do, so I could do, that sounds good too. So, those are two ways or two types of passing chords that you can use in your progressions. You have the alt chords. You also have the chromatic passing chord, which is a really, easy way to come up with a passing chord because you basically have your target chord. You just go down a half step or a half step above, right? So below or above, and then land on that target chord. All right, so that's the fourth step, insert passing chord. So far we've We talked about establishing the feeling or the experience that we want to create for the listener, build out the melody, construct the main chords, and insert passing chords. But one thing that I love to do in virtually like all of my progressions is add embellishment. For example, I could play an F minor 11 chord like this, or I can add in an embellishment where it could sound something like, right, I added in that F into the chord. Right, it's just a way of playing a particular chord. And that's really all embellishments are, just adding in little like artifacts or like inflections within your progression to essentially give it more character. Now, so far, we have this. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in some embellishments into this chord progression. That sounds good. So I'm just going to show you some areas where I added in the embellishments if you weren't able to catch it. So I did something like, so here's an embellishment right here. Right? I still have this F minor 11 chord that I'm playing, but I'm adding in a little inflections within that overall chord. That's still the chord, but I'm not changing the overall chord, but I'm just adding in some little extra stuff within that chord. So here's an embellishment. Now another embellishment I added was right here. So instead of playing the chord like this, I added in this note right here. So instead of doing, I did. So it's just a different way of playing the same chord. Coming up with smooth progressions is always a fun and sometimes challenging adventure. Oftentimes, I don't always follow these steps exactly, and I'm okay with that. I just love being able to go through the creative process, and I hope you are too. I hope this video was helpful in giving you ideas on how to create music that sounds and feels good. So keep playing, keep going. Peace.